Thank you, Reynah. I feel like a bit of an imposter here tonight. I should add that I'm indeed an Asian Australian, but I'm not a lawyer. But I come as a friend of the Asian Australian Law Association, a very proud friend, because the association has been a leading friend for racial equality in Australia. And the conversations that Reynah and his colleagues at the association have started have been important. And I think it's testament to the organisation that we have so many here tonight to inaugurate the association's New South Wales branch. And I think we can all join in wishing Kingsley and the rest of the team here in New South Wales the very best in your endeavours. But it's my privilege tonight to offer a vote of thanks to Mr. Kirby. Typically incisive and inspiring words, Mr. Kirby. If you inspired the students at your old primary school in Strathfield earlier today, then you've certainly inspired the room here tonight. And for me, listening, I was struck by your opening message to us that nothing happens if people don't stand up for change. It's a basic imperative, but one that we must heed. Also, building the case for the future must be, as you say, based on the truth of the present. The facts, as we know, speak for themselves, but it's incumbent on you in this room to build the case around it. And to do that, as Mr. Kirby reminds us, actively and not passively. There is an activist element to the work that the association is doing, not in a capital A activist way, but the task that you do have is indeed one of challenging power. Really powerfully captured by that story Mr. Kirby told us of putting the accoutrements of power onto that young girl and seeing how some had a certain bearing in carrying power. Now, this is the reality of generating social change when it comes to cultural diversity. All too often it is about challenging power, privilege, and getting people to reflect on their social position. And finding allies is going to be important in that task. Again, a message that I hope you will heed from Mr. Kirby. If I can just conclude on a historical note. Mr. Kirby mentioned his friend Bob Chong from school days and reminded us that Australia wasn't always a multicultural society. We've come a long way as a society in recent decades, but more needs to be done to ensure that we celebrate multiculturalism truly, both in our hearts and in our minds. It's very appropriate that only 2 days ago we marked another anniversary, Mr. Kirby, the 40th anniversary of the Racial Discrimination Act coming into effect. And on the 31st of October 1975, then Prime Minister Gough Whitlam called upon us to think, or on Australians, to think about entrenching new attitudes of tolerance and understanding in the hearts and minds of the people. The very existence of the Asian Australian Lawyers Association, the mission that it has, says to us that task still remains. It's a challenge that still remains. And the law is an instrument for social change, and naturally enough, lawyers are agents for social change too. But Mr. Kirby, thank you once again. You've called on us to think about how everyone in this room can empower others, but also you've called on us to challenge others, to stand up for change, and that is a very powerful message indeed. Please join me in thanking Mr. Kirby.